Welcome back, guys, to the Beyond Condition podcast, the voice of bodybuilding. And I am your host, Sarah Parker. However, I've got Sara with me, who is, my G, my G. We are
Back
back
again.
in. We've got the,
Yeah, it's been a while. Well, actually, no. We did the caffeine one the other day, didn't we?
yeah, so that will go, funnily enough, that will go live at Christmas. So I basically
Ooh,
want it to be
nice.
where people, at Christmas, you're a bit like, I've got some time on my hands. Generally speaking, maybe you've started prep if you're starting early on in the season, but generally speaking, it's like you can, and this is what we're going to talk about today. You can feel, I feel you can feel a bit overwhelmed by like normal people.
Yeah, I get that. I get that entirely.
Now, before
Yeah.
we get stuck into the topic, we'll plug, shameless plug, your webinar that you're doing on the 5th. Is that right?
Yeah, so basically, like it's a webinar slash kind of community call on the 5th of December. I'm yet to do a time. It's probably going to be like 12 to 2 p.m. or something like that. I'm sort of within the midday or whatever. I'm yet to kind of decide a time on it. Because obviously I only really released it a couple of days ago. Obviously, this is going to be earlier, like later in the then sort of closer to December. But I only released it a couple of days ago on my Instagram, so it was very much like I know I want to do this webinar slash community call, but I'm yet to kind of decide a time. So be sure to just keep an eye on my socials if you don't follow me, Small Mighty 20. But basically, it's going to be a webinar slash community call, basically about everything to do with PDs. Because I feel that there's a lot of still, I feel that still in this industry, there's a lot of um mystery about PDs and who uses them, who doesn't, and people lying about not using them. Now, I obviously respect that certain individuals can't talk to them due to their can't talk about them due to their job, but there's still hundreds of thousands of other people using them that still claim to be natty. So, despite that, obviously, I still feel that it's a subject that needs to be talked about. So, I've asked loads of people what they want me to touch upon, what topics, like, and we're just going to basically deep dive into it and create a sort of safe space for people to ask those questions that they may not feel confident asking, online, open in, and sort of out in the open, basically. So, because that's what what we've done together as a team in regards to the Beyond Condition podcast, and what I want to do with my brand is create a community where people can feel open and honest about asking those questions. Because there's so much bullshit out online now
Mm.
about what should do this, blah blah blah. And I spoke to an individual the other day who was taking some ridiculous amount of drugs, and they'd only been training for a really short period of time. And I said, well, that's and she didn't know any better, and it was a ridiculous cycle. You know what I mean? So I want to stop that essentially. I mean, obviously we can do our best to try and stop it. I mean, it's always going to be out there because you can't educate everyone, and half the people sometimes aren't on social media. But we'll try our damn hardest to stop that from happening, and these girlies leaving with lifelong issues that they didn't know what would happen from that get-go. So I want to talk about drugs even more than I do now. So yeah, if you're interested, then obviously just drop me a message on my Instagram, and I'll just take your email and I'll send out the link close to obviously the 5th of December. And like I said, time will probably be like early afternoon. And we'll just talk about everything steroids, basically. That's it.
Well, I mean, as well, I feel like it's just come to my mind. I actually get quite a lot of people that are natural and they're considering, staying natural for quite some time to see the potential, etc., and see if this is the right path. But
Yeah.
actually, they're really intrigued by what even steroids are, like what they do, what the risk versus reward even means. Because
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll agree, we can say you need to have your own risk versus reward, but what the fucking hell is that? You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I've had discussions with girlies that I coach, and they've been like, "Look, I want to maybe possibly do X, Y, and Z," and I'm like, "Yeah, but have you actually thought about the implications that come alongside it?" I mean, everyone says how amazing being on drugs is. You get the recovery side of things, and your composition changes, and this and this. But as a female, and obviously as a male, fertility wise, that gets fucking thrown through the roof. That doesn't really fucking matter anymore. So if you want kids, think again about taking anabolic steroids. The lifelong things that we have to deal with as women. Like, if you don't understand those implications, then you're just jumping in blindly to using a drug that can leave you with things that you're going to be damaged for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? Like, so I think allowing people who are natty going into the possibility of the use of peds and educating them and being like, look, this is a major, major decision. It's not just about taking one pill. It's about taking one pill and thinking about everything that comes with that pill. Because once you start, you're probably not gonna stop. Like, I remember when I started using PDs, I was like, okay, I think my first cycle was that typical Anavar cycle, right? The female steroid, right? And so I started there and I was like, right, I'm never gonna do any injectables. And then come a year later, I started doing injectables, and I'm like, I'm never gonna do like testosterone. And like a year later, I needed to be on TRT. Like it's, all of these things. You say, I'm never gonna do this, then you probably will do it. Like because the process that you go on with anabolic steroids is an addictive one because you see that constant progression. And I think this is a major thing that people don't actually talk about is, one thing after another. It's like, if you have an addict or something like that, they're gonna say, oh, I'm not going to do anymore. Not gonna... And then once they've done more and more and more, that addiction then starts to spiral, and that's when you have really bad issues with recreational drugs and things like that. Like you can a lot of people talk about having issues with steroids and the body image the perception of body image that comes with that, and then you've got massive issues with body dysmorphia because they're related to the use of anabolic steroids. So it's all of these things that people need to be aware of because once you hit that steroid button, everything can change massively. And yes, you get the physiological changes, but the psychological changes as well that come with the normal 19s and if you've got a history of anxiety and depression, then those normal 19s are probably going to make that worse. So it's all of these things that people don't really understand, or they lack the education around it because they simply haven't thought about it. I think it's really important to be like, right, this is what you're getting yourself into or potentially getting yourself into. So let's talk about it before you even make that leap. Because again, I think a lot of people, I don't think they understand the power of nutrition, training, and sleep. They just think, fuck it. And everything with obviously the peptide like thing going on at the moment, everyone just using peptide, peptide, peptide. Like I had the discussion with someone the other day, and the fact that, I don't really know enough about peptides, admittedly, to be able to comment too much on them. But, I think, again, a lot of people are running before they can walk with these peptides because they see X, Y, and Z influencer using them. And then they're like, oh, just jab this because it does this and this and this. And it's much like the GLP-1s, like with those. Like, do we really know what can happen with those on the long term? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I spoke about this on my story. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. I actually had a guy in the gym come over and say, "Oh, you're looking lean." Obviously, I just done a mini cut, and he was like, you using Retta?" And I was like, "No, I just automatically said it. I was like, "No, I like to bleed for it." And I was like,
Love
"Oh, for
that.
God's
Yeah,
sake!"
bleed. You
But
have to bleed
I
for
was
it.
like, Sarah, just chill out. But it just came out of my mouth. Anyway, he was like, "Oh right, I've never heard someone say it like that. Like, why wouldn't you want to use Retta?" And it's like, it's now normal. I'm abnormal for
Mm,
not
yeah.
using it, and that's and again, like you say, we're not trying to smack talk anyone here. Like, there is
No.
case scenarios. There's people that are going to use it. There's different examples where we could absolutely use something like Retta. However, when it becomes this like phenomenon and everyone starts to go, oh, well, if you're dieting, you automatically use it. That's the scary part because, like you say,
Yeah.
there's no long-term studies on this.
Yeah. And I think as well, I mean, I could be wrong, but I think a lot of the research done with peptides is on mice anyway. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, can we really compare? No, not really, can we? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and then I know a lot of these studies, a lot of kind of, I guess, pharmaceutical studies are done on mice, etc. But again, if we take anabolic steroids versus peptides, there's a plethora of fucking research on anabolic steroids out there with human candidates.
Yeah.
Whereas with peptides, I don't think there are any, or if there are, there's minimal studies around human-based evidence. So, and it's like, I just, like, again, everyone's to their own and everyone can do whatever the fuck they want. But for me, it's about educating that person. Make your decision on what you want to do, but be aware of X, Y, and Z. Like when I did a presentation for the Birmingham at the Birmingham University of Birmingham the other week on iPad. So in like research, apparently I don't know why, but in research they call it iPad, so image and performance enhancing drugs. They don't call them PEDs for some reason. I don't really know why. On harm reduction and how we can go about trying to promote education around reduction of harm when using iPads. So like the use of needle exchanges and educating around how to inject and things like that. And it's like, again, everyone can make an informed decision about what they want to do, but it's about educating them on the risks and things like that. Like I don't really feel like I'm not a huge advocate of steroids when they're used in a recreational sense. I don't think it's worth the risk. I feel that steroids should be used only really in competitive sense, and that goes for things like Retta because again, it's something that shouldn't be in your body. You know what I mean? Like, and I saw this post the other day on Instagram. I think, you know, someone said, why would you not use Retta Slew on and something else, I think it was, when there is evidence that it can that can help with cardiovascular diseases and I guess it's like insulin response and things like that. But again, like and he said, why would you not use them if they make you healthier and also make it easier? And I was like, yeah, but I don't. I mean, again, like I mean, we all inject ourselves with something that comes from a lab underground somewhere. But again, like it's at least anabolic steroids have been researched over and over again. Whereas again, the peptide is such a grey area. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I want to learn about it, and I just because obviously if someone comes up to me, I want to learn about it. I want to be able to educate them on it. But and don't get me wrong, I might use them just because from a I want to trial it if I want to use it with my clients, like because I'm very much that person. I would never make my clients do anything that I haven't done before. So again, don't get me wrong, I might use it, but I think it's just again, I think it's just a education point of view that people need to look into and they need to dive into before making the conscious decision to inject themselves with an exogenous substance that they don't know what really could do. Because I think there's a lot of talk about the Reta. It was either Reta or one of them. Maybe it was Ozempic that was linked to pancreatitis or something like that.
Yeah, there's lots of, so actually, when you actually to medical professionals and people in the field outside of bodybuilding, there are things coming through with organ related, things that are occurring because people have been on something like Ozempic that's been
Mm.
almost in the spotlight for a bit longer.
Yeah, yeah,
Are
yeah,
things coming out, and when you talk to medical professionals, I've had multiple conversations where it's like they're worried that there's going to be, in maybe 5, 10 years, this epidemic of people going into hospital with the onslaught of the effects that have occurred from use, right now or a couple of years
yeah,
ago.
yeah,
You can't foresee, and it, it's a wild space because it's just for me, it's having something like that available, the initial circumstance for them to bring something like Ozempic in was for people that are morbidly obese. They really need help. I've worked with people in
yeah.
the past, Sarah, where, I had one lady that she had to have her mouth wired shut because she could not stop eating. So a lot of people, think, oh, well, anorexia, that's life-threatening, etc. However, you forget that people that are on the other end of the spectrum, they are really suffering as well. We can all judge and go, oh, well, why are they doing that? They're just eating. They can't stop eating. But actually, the mental health side of it, they could be going through a very similar trauma, but they're overeating rather than undereating.
Mm.
To help people like that, absolutely, that could be the bridge to
Oh,
them
fuck yeah.
to make
Absolutely.
changes. The worry for me as well, and I'm sure you're thinking this also, is are you learning good nutrition habits when you come off of something
Mm.
like Reta? Because I have a friend that used it and he came off it and he said, like, the way he described it was worse than post show. He was like,
Really?
and the thing is, there's no shelf life. So it's like you come off it, bang.
Yeah.
So then what? Like, what happens then? These people are just left,
You're left with a generation of yo-yo dieters there, like because you're coming off and on and off and on and on, like and like if you're willing to push that boundary, then what other boundary are you willing to push with other drugs? Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
So it's really interesting, really interesting discussion point to be honest. Like and you've also got like people like Serena Williams endorsing Ozempic and things like that. So like again, what are we trying to do here? Are we trying to just basically idolize using these just because you can and they're available, or are we just trying to help people that need it in regards to morbidly obese people and things like that? Because again, that's what they're there for. But it's just a bit of it's a very, very grey area. And I think because obviously bodybuilding, will put fucking anything in our bodies. I think it's just going to be abused to fuck in regards to bodybuilding, and then again, it might come back round and bite people in the arse.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like, where I said use case scenarios, and this sort of ties into our topic actually with, Christmas and this is an example that I've given once before on a pod where my last coach said to me, do you want to use something like Ozempic or GLP-1, whatever you want to call it, in
Hmm.
your reverse out? And I was like, no.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to sit. I want to sit with this shit because we're
Yeah.
both of us are pretty twisted when it comes to
Oh, fuck yeah.
getting off on it, right? Like, let's be honest, and people listening, right? Like, if again, we're not trying to throw opinions around because use case scenario, etc. However, there are going to be people like ourselves that we like getting shredded. We like what we could label as suffering. And I was like, no, I want to fucking feel that, and I want to be challenging my own narrative, working on myself, etc., etc. And this is the thing when we do approach seasons of, Christmas, post show, etc. Something like Retta is that example of where people are going, well, we'll use this because, of course, then you can shut out that food noise and perhaps that will help. So maybe, and this has just come to my mind randomly, people could be thinking of using it over Christmas, if they've just ended their season.
Yeah, I mean, if they are, if they're also so worried about that food noise, and even like you said, if you're, there are still shows going on, and I know that I think there's the last IFBB show is I think like mid-December, so
I
you're
know.
going. Yeah, I think because I asked Callum when the calendar was going to be released, and he's like, it's normally always after the last show of the year, which is typically about I think it's like the 14th of December, or it's like the 10th region of December.
I was
Uh,
surprised. I
so
was
then you're rolling straight
like,
into fucking Christmas.
yeah, yeah. And this is the thing, like, because the latest show I've done was like, I think it was like the 11th of November or something. So I had, a good space of time, like 6 weeks, 4, 6 weeks, to sort of have that reverse out and be able to just sit with that period of time and then be able to embrace Christmas. But the thing is, realistically speaking, there may be people listening that have got fucking peeled out their mind. It can take months. It's not even the 6 to 8 weeks, is it?
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it takes time, like you said, it takes time.
And then and this is why it's important to do topics like this, then you're sitting in this environment where you are surrounded by what we would label normal people or gen pop or whatever outside of bodybuilding. And if you're still sitting there pretty lean, and people around you, quote unquote, care about you, absolutely, we've got to take a step back sometimes and go, they probably want to feed you. Do you know what I mean? They're not necessarily trying to sabotage you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I remember the first time I prepped, and I wasn't a big girl then, and I was just, everyone's had their first prep where we all look like death because we don't have any tissue on our frame.
For an alien.
Yeah, legit, yeah. And I remember, and I was wearing like shorts at the time, or like football shorts. So I don't really wear short shorts. I was wearing like football shorts or something. I remember my dad was being like, "Are you okay? Like, are you eating okay, Sarah?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." Like, so, like when you say it's probably just coming from a place of love, like because it's very unusual to see, and when I get lean, like my face is really it shows that I'm lean. And I try and avoid seeing my dad for the last 3 weeks because my face is so fucked. Because no one wants to see their daughter with such a gaunt face. Do you know what I mean? Like, and my off-season face is very different from my prep face, right? And I'm sure you can
Oh
agree.
yeah, it's like hamster cheeks, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and when someone sees you like that, it's obviously going to elicit some kind of emotional response, because it's fucking bodybuilding's fucking weird. We're like starving ourselves to look our best on stage. It's a weird concept. Um, so when someone offers you something, or you're in that environment where there's lots of food and stuff, they are probably, like you said, Sir, just doing it from a place of love because they're seeing someone who, from their point of view, is unwell. I hate to use that term, but like when you're seeing someone as skinny as that or as someone as lean as that, it's going to elicit some response.
Yeah, yeah, because and you've hit the nail on the head there, and that's and you're the same as me. It's we have caution, as it were, when we talk about it in that way, because you can tell, guys, we're absolutely just trying to be transparent and honest here.
Mm.
If you are listening and you take a moment to actually take yourself outside of who you are and think
Yeah.
about if that was your daughter or your friend and you knew nothing about bodybuilding, you
Mm.
would be terrified.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I remember when I came back from Alicante, or it was like a few months after, and I had Emily out there videoing everything, and I showed Dad like, and this was like, I was the most proud fucking part of the season was getting these videos done and showing my dad these videos because that's not really he doesn't really know bodybuilding, right? And there was like a snippet of me doing like an abs and thigh in the pose down or something. And he said to me, he was like, "So does that hurt?" And I was like, "Well, it doesn't really hurt, Dad." Like, and that was the only thing that he said about the entire video, because like he doesn't get it, he doesn't understand, and that for my dad and my sister, they're both into cars, and that fair. Like, I'm not into cars. I couldn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
So. For me, like he's not into bodybuilding. That's cool. Like it's an odd thing when you see your daughter tanned up, skinny, like shredded, and on stage in a bikini probably a bit weird for a dad. Like, do you know what I mean? So, and don't get me wrong, there are families out there that, support it, love it, and whatever. Like, obviously, my mum was into bodybuilding, so dad was kind of in the realms when my mum was younger. But like for me, like if he doesn't want to see it, then that's fine. He'll support from afar and be there when I need him in like a dad kind of way, like financially. If I was really stuck, he'd be like, "Here's some money," or whatever. But like. if he doesn't enjoy it because it is a very strange thing to go and watch, then that's cool. Like I think some people get really kind of upset about it, and it's like, you know what, like from an outsider's perspective looking in, it is an odd thing to be watching, getting all tanned up, getting really shredded and posing. And obviously, we could talk all day about how it's sexualized and things like that, but like the concept is weird. So from an outsider's perspective looking in, it's an odd thing to be doing.
Mm.
And when you see someone lean, then it's obviously going to be weird. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I feel like as well, you enter this like vortex of, particularly when you first start out. We've been doing it for a number of years now, so we're sort of used to the things we're going to talk about more today. But when I first started out at Christmas, it was like, well, I'm going to have my Christmas dinner weighed, tracked, measured. I'm going to eat it how I want.
Absolutely.
And I thought, well, they should fucking understand. Like, what? Why the fuck's my mum being funny about this? Like,
Mm,
what? What? I'm a bodybuilder. Why doesn't she
mm,
understand? And
mm.
then when I actually step out of it, I think, and I remember who was it? I remember once someone said on a pod, and even Lewis Breed when he came on, he was like, the only day off I have is Christmas Day, and he'd go for meals with his wife or whatever. But it's like, that day, and I do believe there's some merit in talking about this, and maybe your approach also. It's like we don't need to spank a load of food. We can just enjoy some nice food, and just be with our
Absolutely.
family. And that's what I'm sure you're the same as a coach. That's what I try
Oh,
to express.
yeah, absolutely. Like, like Lewis has said, like it's one day, it's not going to ruin any of your progress. Much like one day following your meal plan is not going to make progress there. Do you know what I mean? Like
Nice example.
yeah, it's kind of like one of those things. And I think a lot, like you said, just because it's day doesn't mean you can spank a load of food. Like if anything, I think, for me personally, I lose weight over Christmas because I'm not eating the same amount as I was before. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think a lot of people see it as like a competition when actually, like you said, just be aware of your surroundings, be in that environment, and create memories. I had this conversation with a client the other day, and she was struggling with something, and I said, look, like, you don't know what can happen around the corner. And we were talking about balance because that's a fucking great discussion. Everyone says you can't have balance, blah blah blah. But like I said to her, I was like, and this is from personal experience with obviously, sudden deaths in the family and things like that. Like, you don't know what's going to happen around the corner. So one day is not going to hinder any of your progress. Like, you don't know come Boxing Day whether someone's dropped dead or whatever. Like, do you know what I mean? I know that's extreme, but like that's what happened to me. Do you know what I mean? Like, had a Christmas Day and then bam, life changed the next day. Like,
Boxing Day.
so, huh?
Was it Boxing Day?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She passed away Boxing Day. Yeah, crazy, man, crazy. But like, you just don't know what's going to happen. So having a day, create memories. Like, and that's why I had a massive epiphany this year. That's why I pulled prep because I was like, holy fucking shit. Like, what am I doing? Do you know what I mean? Like, and I need to spend more time doing X, Y, and Z before I'm fully immersed into what I can do. And like having one day, guys, on Christmas is not going to cause any issues with your progress. It's actually probably going to do anything. If anything, it's going to help you just chill out, relax, and get ready for the next phase going into 2026. Like it's not going to do much in regards to progress. Like you'll maybe put on a little bit of weight, but that's just water from extra food and calories and things like that. It'll come off in 2 days. Like, do you know what I mean?
I feel like as well, and I mentioned this on a podcast about relationship with food and is food consuming you. Really, really relevant point you just said there. So after my 19-week diet this year, we went on holiday and I just ate a plethora of food and it was all inclusive. Now, initially I was a bit like, oh, it's all inclusive. Like, what's there going to be and stuff? Because I like certain foods, which is
Yeah.
fine. We're bodybuilders, right? We know what we like. But I actually put on 1 pound in a whole, it was like 9 days in Croatia, all inclusive. But I
Mm.
stayed active. The stress levels were down. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
so happy. And I came back and I was like, wow, like I just had a nice time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, like, and I mean, it's the same response for the refeed, right? If you've been going through the motions and you're at the butt fucking arse end of prep, your body's stressed because you're going through the motions, you're on little food, you're high output. Like when you install that little bit of food and a little bit of time to chill, likely outcome of that is that you'll drop weight because you've had that time to chill out. Like when I was with Tom and we were prepping, my refeeds would consist of a day obviously of elevated food and then off plan with Leats because going out and having that off plan with Leats helped just reduce that stress, right? And helps you breathe. And typically a drop would come the next day. So it's like, if you're someone on Christmas that does worry about consuming obviously a little bit of extra food, increase your activity slightly. Like obviously I'm not saying go on the fucking Stairmaster for an hour, but like get up and go for a nice walk. Like I know plenty of families go out for really nice family walks. Like, that's what I do every year because one, I can't sit for long because it just drives me mad. So like going out for a nice walk in the morning, like just chilling out and then just coming home and we'll go to the pub for a bit because that's what my dad likes to do on Christmas and then we'll just come home and have food and then that'll be it. So like just do little things that keep you active on the day. Like don't just if you don't want to slog out and sit on the sofa all day, then don't like go out and move around.
Yeah, I feel like you almost can dramatize it in your own mind. Like, oh, well, I'm going to have to eat this. I'm going to have to do this.
Yeah.
Da, 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 da. Da. And I do exactly the same as you. So I literally get up and I do like a fasted 90-minute, 2 hour walk because I want to.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah,
we,
yeah.
generally speaking, we enjoy activity. And it's like, some people will train. Like, I've trained, I think I've done maybe
Oh,
one
I'd
Christmas session.
love
But
to
for
train on
me,
Christmas Day. I think my
yeah,
dad would kill me
for me, it was
though.
like, this is really fucking cool because then I'm going to eat and, it would be like, oh, this is really
Yeah.
cool. But it's like,
One of the colleagues colleagues that I work with at JP, he unfortunately lost his dad a few years ago, but his brother and his dad used to have like a fuck off manly leg session on Christmas Day and then just go home and eat everything. Like like that for me is like the best tradition. Go and
yeah.
just do a fuck off massive leg day and then go home to some roast turkey.
Yeah, with all the roast potatoes. I think as well,
Yeah.
it's like, when we speak about this, there is also, and this is something I'm trying to sort of delve into on the podcast a little bit more, with being your own yes man in regards to that maybe being a negative. So if you're almost trying to justify taking the overeating to, the nth degree because it's Christmas, that is also a thing. And I do feel like, and this is not me trying to be a party pooper and whatever, there does need to be an element, and this is a tricky topic because people will obviously be like, oh, you can take it in different ways. And whatever way you take this, guys, just, this can challenge your own narrative. With, if you're a competitive bodybuilder, if you are using Christmas as an excuse to spank a load of food, because it's the only time of year you can do it, da 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 da, it's not, and you are a competitive bodybuilder. So I feel like as well, this is a great opportunity to talk about keeping the fundamentals there. Your fluid target, go for a walk, be able to, take your supplements, still be a bodybuilder, but have some different food off plan and enjoy it. Because if you're making these excuses and being your own yes man, that's tricky territory as well. I'm sure you'd agree.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Like, like you said, with like being bodybuilders and competitive bodybuilders and stuff, we do still have a job to adhere to.
Yeah.
So like we still need to get our training in when we can and eat our food when we can and stuff. Like, like you said, one day is not going to make a difference, but the other days leading up to it, just because it's December doesn't mean you can have fucking 10 mince pies, 5 meals a day. Do you know what I mean? So that again is something that, like you said, don't be a yes man to everything just because you feel that you have to be, just because it's Christmas.
And maybe look at, perhaps we've spoken about it before on pods, where like perhaps look at your off season and actually, I spoke to one of the listeners the other day about this. She was like, I've been so strict in my off season, and listening to your pod and coming to one of your webinars, I was like, probably could have enjoyed the off plan a little bit more. I've been a little bit too strict, and I was like,
Yeah.
it's okay. It's your first off season, and she's really sound. She's progressed really well. However, it's like, if you're so strict in off season, then that's leading to Christmas being the UK example of a time where it's like, I'm just gonna fucking do everything. You more than likely will build potential
Yeah.
to have these, food behaviors, food thoughts, and also the rest of, December into January, then self-sabotage, over restriction, feeling like shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe look at the off season and have some social occasions so that then it's not just Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and I know, I've spoken about this on previous podcasts before, and I know some other pros might be like, "Oh, don't want that one." But for me, like in my off season, obviously it's a little bit different, Callum. But like, well, actually, it's not. Well, I guess it is a little bit. I still have off plans and shit here and there, like you know what I mean, because I feel, and that's how what I've always done with my off seasons. Obviously, I'm on a meal plan now, so it's slightly different. But like, I have more dedicated off plans now instead of just having kind of because I was on macros, so you just kind of go with whatever. Um, but now, like, I'll always have an off plan after my check-in day, so that's Wednesday and a Sunday,
Yeah.
and that's always just the way I've been. And if I, for my birthday, if I want a bit of cake, I'm gonna fucking eat a bit of cake, like because, and I feel that that does help. I've never been disordered, but like having a little bit of, oh, I'll have that instead of I don't know this today or whatever, or just it's my birthday, I'm gonna have a little bit of cake, and I think that actually stops the binging kind of mentality and the, oh, I can't have this because, like, especially prep, and that is different because obviously you're in a deficit and you have a competition to work, and obviously we have competitions to work to now, but an off season, and this is why I feel that, certain individuals do so well in prep because they've had that time to switch off. And I mean, Sophie Jenkins is a perfect example of this as well. Is her, she has an off season like mine where she'll hit her meals, she'll go and train, she'll recover. But if she wants something, she'll eat it. And I think for me and I mean, yeah, 'cause like I said, we could argue about balance all fucking day long, but like that's worked for me since the 10 years since I stepped in the gym and became a bodybuilder. And I think I've made pretty good progress having that balance. You know what I mean? So I think if you're in an off season, I remember watching something and it was like a roast dinner on a Sunday, and they were there with their Tupperware, and it comes back to like that memories, those balance and creating memories for families. You don't know what's gonna happen the next day. Like have the fucking roast dinner, bro. Like, it's not gonna kill you. It's one meal, and it's chicken, potatoes, and veg, essentially. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and obviously, and obviously, it's not chicken and rice, but it is basically chicken rice, chicken potatoes. Like, and it's just one of those things that you can have an off plan here and there as long as you're adhering to other elements. And if you're having an off plan, so like for example, I'll have my off plan tonight. I'll just remove the last 2 meals of my diet and have that.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you're gonna have an off plan, just remove, and that's what I do with my clients. If you've got an off plan coming up, or if you've got an event, we'll bank some calories for that event, and so you don't feel that you're gonna go over your calories. Like I've got a lady who's got a work event on Friday. Okay, so you're training, so let's just move you over to non-training day. That gives us 400 extra calories to work with, so you can have a couple of drinks, and then that'll be it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, so many people are so confused by the idea of balance, and social media says that balance can't be had, but like I'm a prime example of balance can be had, but obviously not to a point where it's just ridiculous. But you can have balance, but obviously just don't be a twat about it.
That's the thing. Like, I feel like for sure a load of, what was driving sort of disordered ways of behaving and thinking and whatever around food was this like it was just this pressure all the time that like off plan turned into like an off plan day rather than an off plan meal. There was
Mm,
like, oh, eat what you want. And it was when I started to work on it myself, and I was like, actually, I would rather off plan exactly what you do. And it's what I've always done with clients: sandwich 2 meals together and have something you enjoy. Now, I
yeah.
truly believe with what you said there with the disordered, realms that we can go into, that if you're allowing yourself to do those things and you don't feel the need to then go and restrict the next day, you've just had an off plan, like it's just an off plan.
Mm,
It's so different to this like hyper fixation on you have to have off plan, have what you want. All week you're waiting for that off plan, then you feel sick, then the next day you're like, should I restrict? Then you're like, oh, but I want the off plan again. And it's this like
yeah.
vicious
Yeah.
cycle. And it's
Yeah.
not, it doesn't really even feel like bodybuilding. Whereas you and I in the examples right now in 2025, it's like actually, if I was to go and have a meal tonight and sandwich 2 meals together, I'm not going to choose a load of shit. Like I'm going to choose a nice.
Exactly. Yeah. And you find that with a lot of people, like 9 times out of 10, like I'll probably just get a Wagamama's and have chicken and rice.
I
Like,
fucking love Wagamama's.
I absolutely fucking bum a Wagamama's, mate.
Oh, they're fucking delicious.
So yeah, and I think it's kind of like the I can't have it, but because you can't have it, you want it. Whereas
Exactly.
whereas if like I see something, I could have it, but I just don't really fancy it. Like, do you know what I
Love
mean?
that. Yes, yes, yes.
So
It's
I
exactly
think
right.
again, it's just about again, it's balance, but like just being not so restrictive in the fact that you can have whatever you want as long as you're hitting the fundamentals, and then obviously just go from there, especially on Christmas. Like it's one day, you'll be fine. If you're really worried about it, stick to your, well, one thing is keep the routine. Routine is really important, especially if it's like for me, like I get slightly out of control, not out of control, but like overwhelmed by Christmas because there are so many routine parts that are completely out of whack. Like
Yeah,
gyms are sharp, blah blah blah. Things are pretty crazy, different like, opening times and closing times. But if you can keep to a routine as much as possible, it's going to eliminate anything that might lead you to feel anxious and then might lead to certain disordered behaviors or whatever. I think keep your routine as similar as you possibly can.
yeah, yeah. I feel like as well when I think back to, we can maybe dig into this. When I think back to like previous Christmases when I was very much like I'm fucking overwhelmed. When you said the word overwhelmed, I'm imagining what that felt like in my brain. Like the
Mm,
days leading up, I'm thinking, oh my God, like I've got
yeah, yeah. Especially if it's supposed to be a training day and you're like, I should be fucking training.
Yeah, and you're like, if I don't train, I don't deserve the food. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
And the
absolutely. Yeah,
brain is
yeah,
going
yeah.
fucking mental. So the walk we said earlier, that really did help because I would get up early and this is what came in clutch. I would get up before everyone came round. So no one even you don't need to tell everyone, I've been for a 2 hour walk, so I'm allowed to eat. That's
Mm.
not, you're a bodybuilder, so you can go for a walk. Like just do that as your normal thing. Maybe that replaces the gym session in the morning or whatever. And then it's like, and this is what I think is important, having a thought process as to what do you actually want to eat rather than feeling like you have to have, like roast dinner. There's
Mm.
certain items that I won't have because I don't actually like them. And you said it right. You build yourself up to like, oh, I want to have this is, but then you have it and you're like,
Yeah.
even like that. And we do, and this is again a tricky subject. I do think that we have to be mindful of using the calories in the best way to get the enjoyment. And I'm not saying count your calories. I'm not saying, oh, that's too high calorie, that's too high calorie. What I'm saying is, if you're going to eat this and it is high calorie, is it worth it? And
Yeah.
I don't feel like that's a problem framing it like that as a fucking bodybuilder.
You know what? Like that's why I don't really drink alcohol because I'd much rather put the calories elsewhere.
I'd rather eat.
Yeah, yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, 100%. Like, don't just consume calories for the sake of consuming calories. Like, make sure that they're worth it. Make sure it's something that you enjoy. Because if you're someone that's like, oh, I've got to go back on my meal plan tomorrow, and I've just eaten all this shit and I don't even like it, then it's just gonna make it worse.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. And again, this is even that right. Like we're talking about this to me in my narrative, and I want to be careful with what I say to the audience, but that's a normal way to think about it. We're not pushing that you have to calorie count and all these things. We're just talking from you are a competitive bodybuilder, so you know about calories. So
Yeah,
if you do overeat on calories and it wasn't a very nice experience, that's what can lead to the mental health side of things rather than just going, just eat what you want, guys. Just eat what you want because you're the one who has to deal with it, not the person on social media saying eat whatever the fuck you want.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
And it's, that I feel like there's so much simplicity in the little things as well. So we spoke about we'll give a little teaser on the stim one about like having some biscuits with a cup of tea sitting with your dad or something. Like little
Yeah,
things like that. It's like
yeah,
that
yeah.
is so nice. It's so
Mm.
nourishing, but we forget we can do silly little things like that and it's not really
Yeah.
that many calories.
Yeah, I think way back when we did a prep one, and I spoke about, post prep, I go the other way. I don't really eat much,
Yeah.
but
I
but
feel you.
do you know what I mean? And so to kind of get me back around to human beings, sort of normality. If we go out, if me and Leeds go out for a coffee, we'll buy a cake and we'll just half it
Nice.
because you're sharing it. You don't feel overwhelmed by the fact you've just had a bit of cake. Like, so if you're offered, I don't know, a bit of Battenberg over Christmas.
Battenberg. Love how you
And
Battenberg.
and it's like, and it's just too much, but you kind of want some, but you don't want all of it. Just half it with someone. Like, you don't feel like you have to eat the whole fucking thing.
Yeah, I think we like there's two ends of the spectrum. You think everyone's watching you, you think everyone's like, what's she eating? Da, da, da. I think half the time they don't really care.
Yeah, I don't really care. It's Christmas, no one really cares.
Yeah, yeah, and then it's like, how do you want it to be? Like, how do you want to experience Christmas? And if you do have, thoughts and difficulties around food, and I'm sure you're the same as me, I try and offer it to speak to clients, and I don't know if you have this, but I say it, and I don't want to be like, look, I need to give you strict guidelines, da, 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 but I don't want to not give you any guidelines. How do you want to play this time? Because again, I don't want to be condescending and say, have you eaten your protein today? But again, it is important if you're a bodybuilder.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I know some people, some coaches that, when someone competes and they have the day off after, some coaches will just be like, look, have your meals, but at least have 20 grams of protein with each meal. You can have a day off, but have your 20 grams of protein in there somewhere. Like, don't just eat carbs. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's quite a good way of still kind of being aware of your nutrition for the day, but also having a little bit of relaxation around it. So, like with Christmas, like I'll always have my normal breakfast, and I'll always normally have something between breakfast and and then obviously Christmas dinner. but I'll always just make sure that I've had my first two normal meals because again, that's like, I know I've got my protein. I've put an element on my protein for the day. I know I've had my X, Y, and Z, and then I'll have the Christmas meal, and then I'll probably just leave it there because I know that for me that's just enough for the day. So again, like have your normal meals prior to that if you just want to keep that routine, and then you've got a little bit of protein and a little bit of your baseline meal plan in there. If that's something that if you worry about not getting enough protein for the day, or suddenly going catabolic and losing all your muscle, like which you won't, by the way. So at least you've had that little bit of protein in the morning to kickstart your day.
Do you ever, like in the past with off plan, like obviously right now we're both, very, very cool with it, like it is what it is. But of course we've both been on journeys of stepping away from being lean, etc., etc. If you ever had sort of anxieties or overwhelm or, double thinking things or checking menus and stuff like that, can you think of anything if people are listening that are just literally shit scared of Christmas that would sort of resonate with them as to really simple steps on top of what we've already said? A
Hmm.
hard one, isn't it? Because there's so many people that listen, and obviously everyone's at a different point in their journey.
I think. Hmm. I think, like I've said, routine is such a big one here. And if you do want to go and train, then don't not go and train. Like there are still gyms open. So if for you, and I still struggle with this, but I've got a lot more experience over knowing the importance of a rest day. If you still want to go and train, then don't not go and train because some people really struggle with the idea of not training, and I like I said, I'm the same. So if you find that not training can trigger like certain elements or whatever, then go and find a gym that's open. There are still gyms that are open on Christmas Day, so I think that's really important. Like, don't just stop because it's Christmas. Like if, like I said, again with the routine, like try and keep that routine. If you want to go and train, go and train. But then equally as well, Sarah, I suppose we could say that, we've spoken about, having that balance and stuff. But if it is truly overwhelming as fuck, then just stick to what you know. I think that's really important because then again, you can create memories that aren't fucking around food, right? We do it around
Yes,
prep
my G.
all the time, like prep, like cinema or go for coffee or whatever. Like you don't have to create memories based around food. Like even playing board games with your family in front of the fire at Christmas is memory creating. Like it doesn't have to be so food focused and food involved. So if you're someone that really does struggle, then do your normal thing and then just go from there. Like, but then equally as well, you could, if you're someone that does calorie track and you want to calorie track that day, a roast dinner can actually be made in a quite a relatively healthy way now, especially with, air fryers and stuff that we can use. So if you just weigh out some potatoes and weigh out a chicken breast, like that is basically chicken and potatoes. So like, and you've got your veg. So you can have a roast dinner still, but create it in a way that you're comfortable with eating, basically.
Mm, I love that. Like even having a separate tray,
Yeah, massively.
I think if you're listening, guys, and you're in this scenario, try and be quite normal around it. So when I mentioned this on last year's one, when I said to my mum, like, would I be able to have my potatoes cooked separately with fry light instead of olive oil, just because I
Yeah,
prefer the
I used
taste?
to do that. Yeah, absolutely. I
And it's
used to I, I used to make my dad not have like olive oil and shit on roast potatoes. Like just use fry light. Like, do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, and I feel like as well, my mum really liked that I was bringing her on board.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. I think some parents are like, oh, being involved in something. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, and again, maybe we're building this up in our own mind that they think we're weird, da 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 da. But again, guys, I always say it. It's good to not be the same as everyone else. It's good to be
Yeah,
weird. It's good to
absolutely.
be weird like me and Sarah. Obviously, this comes out early December, so it's a good point of reference for people ahead of time. I feel
Hmm.
like to wrap up would be really good to go back into the thought process of the because we've sort of flip-flopped, which is really nice through the overeating and the restricting, and because that's of course you've got the plethora of different people, different angles, or maybe a bit of both. If you do get to Christmas and you have a plan in place, you're thinking, right, I've got this. Listen to the pop with the G's.
Hey.
I'm happy, I'm all good. And then you do overeat, and you may have clients that you speak to as well. We deal with people post show, etc. So these things happen. I'm gonna ask you what you would say, but I feel like, as we said earlier, it's one day, but also, guys, you are still human.
That's really important. Yeah.
It's if you've had these foods, it takes a hell of a lot to actually accrue, a fuck ton of body weight, as it were. If you can have that day that has happened, and yes, you're probably going to need to decompress with your coach, etc. And the problem is, of course, you're probably not going to message a coach on Christmas Day, so you can feel quite alone. So try to then take back control the next day, but trying not to go into the sort of self-restriction realms and just get back to your normal foods.
Yeah.
Is that what you would say?
Yeah, absolutely. Just get back to it. Like, just get back to it, and you'll be fine. Like any weight that you would have accrued over Christmas will go in the next couple of days. Like it's, the worst thing you can do is add more cardio in here or restrict here and there, because again, it just creates really bad, I guess, but not bad habits, but I guess yes, and bad habits. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, so just get back on it. Like, don't just do protein and fat for a day. Like, just get back in your meal plan, get back into your normal kind of training regime if you didn't train on Christmas, and you'll be fine.
And be aware, guys, if you do have more food on something like Christmas Day, the next day you can feel like you want to do it again. You can feel like
Yeah.
you want to do it more.
Mm.
There's an obesity crisis across the world, right? There's a reason for that, because the hyper palatable foods, they taste good, they make you want to do it more. So if you can, and that's tricky as well, but if you can just think about your aspirations as a bodybuilder, that you enjoy bodybuilding, that this is your pursuit, this is your why, and try and just get back to. And once you're a couple of meals in the next day, you're like, okay, I'm cool. But you wake up and you're like, but I want to eat chocolate cake again. That's
Yeah.
quite normal to feel that, and almost like I've just taken the piss a bit there, but it is like I sort of do take the piss out of myself sometimes and just sit with it, and then I'm just like, come on, just get back to it. You love bodybuilding, we're all good. Just get back to your normal foods, and try not to self-sabotage yourself, because this time of year, like, you can go into Christmas Day thinking I got this, and then some cake might come out, like you said, with birthdays or
Mm.
whatever. It's like pros eat cake as well, like they do.
Yeah.
It might
You know
not.
what? I think a lot of I don't think a lot of pros fucking talk about it. That's why people think that everyone is just so strict in that. When actually, like, we are fucking human. Like, I do like cake. I had someone asked me once whether I ate garlic bread, and I was like, "Yes, Karen, I eat fucking garlic bread." Do you know what I
With
mean?
fucking cheese.
Yeah. And I was like, "For fuck's sake!" Like, we're fucking human as well.
All the I've got to shout out my my bestie. I call her BBG because she's bodybuilder and she's a G, so BBG.
Nice.
When she stayed at ours, she was like, we were in M&S, and she was like, look at that sourdough bread and it's garlic bread. And then on the shelf up, there was the same thing with cheese. And she was like, should we get it? And I was like, I'm so fucking lovely.
What a G.
I love it. I love it.
Jeez.
Well,
Yeah.
my G, thank you. And of course, obviously the webinar we spoke about at the start, if of course you're interested in coaching with Sarah as well, you will see on her Instagram how you can, DM or click through the links to do that also. But I know that lots of people like listening to us on podcast. So thank you, my G. I really do appreciate you.
Always an honor to be on the podcast. You know it is. But it's ever growing
Ever growing. Enjoy
popularity.
your waggers.
Oh, I will do. It's something about getting a different chicken from somewhere else, and my chicken sucks ass.
I know. So after this, just quickly after this mini cup, Matt was like, "What do you want?" And I was like, "I just want some different chicken with some sticky rice. Like
Yeah,
that's
fuck
all
yeah.
I want." And I was like, we sat there, and I was like, "I am so happy."
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't
I'm just so lazy with my chicken. I just put it on a grill and just put it in the oven. I don't season it or anything. It's like, quite frankly, can't be fucked.
Yeah, Christmas, guys, just have some roast chicken.
Yeah.
Thank you, my G.
Love you lots, matey.
Love you.
Take it easy, okay?
Bye.